We are all hoping that this regulation business eventually comes. But what if it doesn't? I sometimes wonder how the prehistoric PAs feel about this. Are they indifferent or are they still hopeful? Does it really make much of a difference to them? Of course it will make a difference to them in terms of prescribing rice ionizing radiation, but if you've been around here since 2003, can you actually be fast? I have been around just 2 minutes compared to these old timers, and I'm already pulling a Samuel L. Jackson after 2 delays. I don't really know about you guys, but if these hoity-toity folks decide not to go ahead with the regulation, they might as well take their profession. I would be out of here quicker than Sonic. Could they really make a U-turn? We were here in 2015 when the then healthcare secretary made a promise of 5,000 additional GPs. We are in 2022 and that is nowhere in sight. So it wouldn't be their first time. There has been somewhat of a precedence before in the form of state-enrolled assistant nurses. They came into the medical picture around the 1930s, following some difficulty recruiting nurses. Put short, a nursing shortage. By 1943, they had statutory recognition. Compared to registered nurses, their training was much shorter. They didn't have any standardized curriculum. There was no clear-cut way of becoming one in terms of the required competencies and what their job was really about. And like us, there were all kinds of complaints about their existence, blurring the lines between who are registered nurses and what these new state-enrolled nurses are. In 1961, to allow further clarity on the role, the assistant in their name was dropped. However, they were still not happy. They felt their skills were undervalued. Some matrons just didn't recognize them as anything. You were just a waste of space by being a state-enrolled nurse. And also, they didn't feel there was any scope for career progression. They felt stuck. Then in 1972, a paper came out which said, though the state-enrolled nurses were supposed to be the assistants, in actuality, when you got down to the wards, they were doing the same tasks as the actual registered nurses. Then, in the early 80s, multiple papers from the nursing world made the argument that there should only be a one-way street. That two-tier system with the assistant nurse, registered nurse business just wasn't cutting it. In the early 90s, following the implementation of Project 2000, by the UKCC, the now NMC, enrolled nurses were phased out. Conversion courses were made available for them to become registered nurses. In 1992, the last course taken on enrolled nurses was cut. Will this happen to us? It seems improbable, but one would have thought a profession that had been around for over 50 years was going nowhere. But to the surprise of the enrolled nurses, it became a reality. When the tide changed and it was deemed no longer fit for purpose, it was shown the door. Would it be a tragedy if physician associates were asked to become doctors? Technically no, but fundamentally yes. Technically no, because at the end of the day, you'll still be practicing medicine and we'll be addressing the root cause of our existence. However, all the reasons why we love being physician associates would be a thing of the past. That flexibility, bye-bye. That lateral mobility, bye-bye. It will defeat the main purpose why people chose this path. So yes, fundamentally, that would be a tragedy. By saying all this, I'm not trying to put people off the role of the physician associate. I'm just stating some historical facts in the medical field and how they've played out. They look rather similar to our current situation. In Ghana, we say, if you want to see what your wife will look like in her old age, look at your mother-in-law. And in this case, there's a precedence of the system introducing some assistant, associate type clinician, and then later on, after 50 years, just taking them out because they wanted to change their plans. But yeah, I'm just waffling. It's your boy Yoti, and I'm out. Salute.